This is Ashlyn Griffin. She's 26 years old and currently facing felony murder charges after she shot and killed her boyfriend, Brandon McCray. McCray was a convicted felon who spent time in prison for violently assaulting Griffin while she was pregnant. It sounds totally crazy and almost inconceivable. I know this, which is why we have to back up and start from the beginning. Ashlyn Griffin is from Dublin, Georgia. She moved to Statesboro in 2016 to study at Georgia Southern University. She attended school full-time, worked in Pooler, and lived at University Point. She met McCray in December 2017 at Midtown Bar and Grill in Statesboro, and the two began dating shortly thereafter. He moved in with her in January 2018, though she was quiet about their relationship and her parents, who lived in Dublin, were unaware she was dating him. In April 2018, a domestic dispute put Ashlyn in the hospital after McCray reportedly threw objects over their balcony, took her keys, refused to let her leave, choked her on the bed screaming, "I'll kill you," and kicked her in the stomach repeatedly. Ashlyn was pregnant at the time. She fled the apartment on foot and called a friend at the store around the corner while McCray followed her in her own vehicle. She ran across campus to the friend who picked her up and took her to safety. The incident was reported to law enforcement, and McCray was arrested for aggravated assault and theft by taking the next day. The case was prosecuted by District Attorney Daphne Totten, who was still an ADA at the time, and McCray eventually entered a guilty plea for aggravated assault. He acknowledged he choked and threatened to kill Ashlyn Griffin. He was sentenced to a brief period of incarceration, 10 years on probation, and another case he had pending over drugs was dead docketed. While he was incarcerated, Ashlyn gave birth to their child, and his family was an active part of that child's life, assisting with childcare on the weekends so she could work. McCray was released on January 30th, 2020, and Ashlyn allowed him to have visitation with their daughter at times. The romantic relationship did not immediately resume, but when her weekday childcare options fell through, McCray began helping her and sleeping over. They were living together and romantically involved at the time of the shooting. On the day she shot and killed McCray, Ashlyn voluntarily gave statements to law enforcement after the shooting. She videoed a reenactment at the scene with detectives and provided a written statement of her account. She was subsequently arrested and charged with murder. In July 2020, Chief Superior Court Judge Gates Peed granted bond for Ashlyn's case, setting it at $30,000. He ordered her to wear an ankle monitor and banished her from Bullitt County unless she was attending court proceedings. The fact that she got bond was indicative of the preliminary facts of the case, as the Ogeechee Judicial Circuit in rural southeast Georgia almost never orders bond in cases like these. Ashlyn's attorneys were adamant that she had no choice, that she acted in self-defense, and that she should be immune from prosecution. Attorneys Mitchell Warnock and Nelson Carswell, both from Dublin, filed a motion seeking immunity, and the district attorney's office, now led by Daphne Totten, opposed the motion, prompting a hearing to be scheduled before a judge. That's right, the prosecutor, who put a man in prison for violently assaulting his pregnant girlfriend, was now fighting to prosecute the victim in that case. If you don't know, an immunity hearing takes place before a judge without a jury. Unlike in other proceedings, at an immunity hearing, the burden of proof is on the defense. They must convince a judge that it is more than likely that the claim of self-defense is true. Georgia law provides immunity for individuals who have used deadly force to defend themselves or someone else, so long as they were lawfully permitted to possess the weapon, that they were not the aggressor, that the incident was not provoked by the person using force, and they cannot be in commission of another felony at the time of the incident. Makes sense. So if the judge believes it is more than likely that self-defense occurred than not, he would rule in favor of the defendant. When this immunity hearing took place, the judge heard from a number of witnesses, including a crime scene analyst, a GBI medical examiner, a geometry teacher, and the neighbors of Ashlyn and McCray. The court also watched body cam footage from the responding officer, played a video of the reenactment Ashlyn simulated with detectives, and we heard the 911 call she made moments after shooting McCray. Then she took the stand herself. It's undisputed that Griffin fired 2 shots approximately 2 to 4 seconds apart, and one shot struck McCray, entering on the left side of his body and exiting above his right nipple. Prosecutors say that the first shot missed McCray and the second struck him. That seems like a moot point when he's still dead, but a detective with the Statesboro Police Department said in a court hearing that Ashlyn was justified in firing the first shot, but not in the second. So 1 shot is okay, 3 seconds pass, and the second shot is fired, but it is not justified. Interestingly, the court also heard from GBI Assistant Medical Examiner Joni Skipper, who conducted the autopsy on McCray. She talked about her report and said the gun was fired at an indeterminate range, but that the bullet had an upward trajectory entering the body at a lower point than it exited. In her testimony, she stated she had difficulty seeing how it would be anatomically possible for the state's claims on bullets to match what she had found on the body. 3 neighbors also testified all about the frequent yelling and cursing and aggressive incidents they witnessed while McCray was living with Ashlyn. Each detailed incidents where he would lock Ashlyn out of the house with the baby, throw her keys into bushes as tall as the house, and refuse to let her leave. Prosecutors asked each of them, after they were questioned by the defense, if they'd ever heard McCray threaten Griffin's life, but each replied no. Then Ashlyn Griffin took the stand. She testified that she initially found McCray to be funny, caring, and a good listener, but that it wasn't long after they'd been living together that the first incident of violence occurred. She recalled the first time it got physical. She said she had to be up early the next day for class and was awakened twice by McCray being loud on the phone. When she asked him a second time to keep it down, Ashlyn said McCray became angry. "He told me to shut the f*** up, and he came behind me and shoved me. I pushed him back, away from me, and he hit me in the face with his fist," she told the court. Ashlyn then tearfully described how he hit her in the head with a metal trash can, and he began choking her with both hands before she passed out. She said when she came to, he was smacking her face, screaming, "Oh my God, I thought I killed you." She said he apologized, pleaded for her not to call the police, and said it would never happen again. Griffin ultimately didn't call the police or tell her family, who was still unaware that she was even dating McCray. She said she was embarrassed. Ashlyn talked about 2 other incidents that led to violence, including a time when she brought home the wrong kind of shrimp for dinner. She was left with bruises and a black eye on that occasion. And after that incident, she told McCray they needed a break, so he moved out. But after a week, in a conversation with his mother, he was back again, asking for forgiveness. During another incident, McCray's brother had to separate the two after McCray spit in her face. He hit her with his fists, and he kicked her in the face with his shoes on. Griffin admitted that she fought back on that occasion. It wasn't long after that Ashlyn found out she was pregnant. She told the court that the domestic incident that led to her hospitalization with contusions on her face and neck, along with pelvic hemorrhaging, is what led to McCray being jailed without bond. Ashlyn admitted that she went to the DA's office at one point and asked them not to prosecute him, asking not to push the case forward, explaining that she didn't envision being alone during her first pregnancy, and of course, she loved McCray. She visited him at the jail on a handful of occasions and even received calls from him. This is textbook behavior for many domestic violence victims. She told the court that McCray's release from incarceration didn't immediately ignite their relationship. But when they were on again in 2020, it was a tumultuous several months with disputes that left her with bruises from being hit with a stick and an incident where McCray smashed her phone on the concrete. He'd leave, spend some time away, and then he'd be back again. In early May 2020, Ashlyn had had enough. She said she was frustrated with his lack of employment and contributions to the household, so she suggested he leave. That angered McCray, and he reportedly told her he wasn't going anywhere while punching the bathroom door. Ashlyn said she walked on eggshells after that, and the couple ceased being intimate with each other. When Ashlyn described the morning of the shooting, there was a certain tension in the courtroom. She said she had just returned from taking her daughter to daycare and was getting ready for a family event. A dispute arose over damage done to her car while McCray had been driving, and while she was on the phone with a friend outside, McCray began yelling at her to stop running her mouth and spreading her business. She stated he told his friend on his own phone that she needed to hurry up or he was going to have to beat her ass and he might have to punch this. Ashlyn went inside and got in the shower, and that's when she heard McCray yelling and cussing and banging things around. He entered the bathroom, pulled the shower curtain down from the wall, and told her he wanted to f her up. She stepped out of the shower and went into the bedroom, soaking wet, to get a sheet to dry off when he pushed her twice and told her he was going to make her fight him. He dumped her purse over, he squared up to fight, and shoved her between the bed and the crib. She grabbed a pillow to try to block his punches, but he snatched it and threw it on the ground. He was screaming at her, she said, as he followed her back into the bathroom where she slammed the door in his face, making him more irate. He began banging on the door, and though she had turned the water on to start brushing her teeth, she ultimately decided to retrieve the gun from the bathroom sink cabinet. Ashlyn had obtained it a couple months prior, but she'd been moving it around the house since McCray discovered it. She said she didn't want him to spaz out and use it on her or someone else. Ashlyn said she was racking the gun when McCray burst in the bathroom, so she fired. When asked if she was scared, she simply said, "Yes, he was going to f me up or kill me." She testified that she fired again because she saw a flash and believed he was coming toward her. Ashlyn then dropped the gun and exited the bathroom to see McCray's feet in the closet. She heard him moaning as she was looking for her phone but could not find it. She ran toward the door. Then she realized she was still naked, and she returned to get a shirt and some pants from the bed. And a second time she returned to get the gun. She was afraid he would use it if he got a hold of it and followed her. Ashlyn beat on the neighbors' doors, pleading to use their phone, and then she called 911. Her attorney asked her whether or not she felt like she had a choice. She replied with a swift and tearful no. As I said before, she voluntarily went to the police station for questioning, where she said she remained for 6 or 7 hours because she believed she had nothing to hide. For hours, she answered their questions and painted a picture on camera to the best of her abilities to provide information. But it didn't matter, and prosecutors have been unwilling to listen. At the immunity hearing, Chief Assistant District Attorney Barkley Black asked the court to dismiss the defense's petition on immunity. He argued that the defense had not met its burden to call the acts justified because Ashlyn said it was unintentional, that she didn't intend to kill him. Black said, "You don't own it? If you don't admit it to the underlying crime, there is no justification. You can't have your cake and eat it too." Her attorneys argued that Black was misinterpreting the law because Georgia's self-defense laws don't require an individual to retreat before acting in self-defense. Black had also suggested that Ashlyn had to admit to a crime, but if it was self-defense, how was there a crime committed? The judge ultimately decided to side with the state, and the immunity hearing was ended abruptly. So now Ashlyn must stand trial before a jury of her peers in Bullitt County and explain why, as a domestic violence victim, she shot and killed her abuser when she was in fear for her life. But due to the pandemic, there's a massive backlog on jury trials, so it could easily be a year or more before Ashlyn shares her story with the people who can vindicate her. In the meantime, she remains out on bond, carrying the weight of what might happen in court. Will a jury acquit her, or will she face life in prison? If you were a juror on Ashlyn's case, what would the verdict be? Let me know in the comments.